Blaze. Dot. 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 Blaze looks over at Kenpachi as a light rain begins to fall under the cloudless sky. "I don't know why you bother, kid," he says with a sigh before returning his gaze to where he was walking and continuing on down the path ahead. Blaze scoffs. "Don't ignore me. Why won't you fight me?" he asks more loudly, drawing some attention from those around them as they walk along through the woods together. Kenpachi doesn't respond for a while, instead just watching the boy's back as he walks alongside him. Finally, after about half a minute or so of silence, Kenpachi speaks. "You're not ready." "What do you mean? I'm awesome," the young man protests indignantly. Kenpachi continues to stare off into space until finally, "Well, we'll see when you face your match, won't we?" With that said, Kenpachi turns away and resumes his steady pace. A little confused by this whole exchange but also feeling rather proud of himself, Blaze decides to change the subject. "Hey, wait up." Kenpachi sighs. "You're already unaware of your surroundings. Your match has started already." Looking around, Blaze notices they are in a forested arena as loudspeakers crackle to life. "Today we have a visitor from another universe." Formerly known as Shadow Seed, the king of demons, Blaze has turned from evil and is here today under the watch of Kenpachi Zaraki. Today's fight will be Blaze vs. Ameno's Grande Hollow. As soon as the announcer mentions Kenpachi, Blaze feels a tingle run up his spine and shivers go down his arms. Suddenly nervous, he takes several deep breaths hoping to calm himself down. Then without thinking he leaps away from a sudden movement. Looking over as he touches down, Blaze is startled by a demonic humanoid tiger-like beast with a hole in its chest leaping towards him with surprising speed, landing an elbow across his jaw. Blaze flies across the arena, turning a boulder to rubble. A strong burst of wind and energy blasts away the dust hanging in the air as Blaze raises his power. Energy surrounds him and shoots out of his hands, creating a blue shield blocking the attack of the monster clawing at his side. The creature roars angrily, then retreats, only slightly shaking its head. Blaze cups his hands, gathering energy. This time he blasts a shock wave throughout the entire stadium, causing everyone there to stagger backwards, then looks over at Kenpachi, who still hasn't moved despite all this chaos. Blaze frowns. "He won't fight me yet. Well, now what?" he thinks. In front of him stands a giant demon wolf. It sniffs the air briefly, then dashes forward, growling. Its jaws open, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Blaze's energy level explodes as he sidesteps with a twirl, bringing an axe kick down on the beast's head. His foot ripping through the skull, then slamming into the ground, creating a half-mile-wide crater. The crowd wildly cheering for Blaze. However, Kenpachi remains unmoved. Blaze laughs softly and now faces Kenpachi alone with nothing but a large wooden pole. Kenpachi simply nods at him before raising his wooden sword. Blaze stares at him intensely. "Now then, we shall begin our battle," Kenpachi states calmly. Blaze gives a small smile, nodding eagerly. "You sure you want to use a wood sword though?" he asks. Kenpachi simply shrugs. Then with a yell of excitement, Blaze turns to a blur. Kenpachi watches, sure of one thing. Seems he thinks a lot of himself. Kinda like his persistence. But someone should show him where he really stands, he thinks to himself in a fraction of a second. Just as he predicted, his blade slashes right past the boy's attack with lethal force, hitting nothing but empty air and the dirt, creating a small blast-like effect. Blaze, jumping back in surprise, swallows hard. Seeing his opening, Kenpachi brings his sword down, slashing left and right, cutting chunks out of the ground, slicing through the trees and sending debris flying everywhere. Blaze responds by transforming into a royal-looking grayish-white humanoid demon wolf that almost seems angelic. Running directly at him, Kenpachi had expected such a move and blocks it using his wood sword, causing a powerful explosion, throwing Blaze backward, knocking him unconscious briefly. Coming to, he flips in the air, landing on his feet, gouging a 100-foot trench into the forest arena. Mid-slide, Kenpachi appears, landing a hard kick. A massive 2-mile crater forms, the dirt and trees blasted away as Blaze rockets into the side of a mountain, impacting like a mini-nuclear blast, his protective ki discharging on impact involuntarily. The area becomes covered in molten rock. The ground crumbling inward as a small earthquake rattles the area and the sky darkens momentarily. Blaze pushes himself up, struggling as he fails to notice Kenpachi's wooden sword stop an inch from his head. Kenpachi frowns, putting his sword to his side. This fight is over. I am not interested in fighting weaklings who can't fight anymore. Kenpachi sheaths his wooden blade. Blaze pushes himself up. Oh come on, you cheated. Cheating huh? Is that what you call that? Kenpachi retorts. Well yeah, duh. Kenpachi shakes his head as he turns walking away. You still think you're all that, don't you? That wasn't even half of my power, he tells Blaze. Dot. 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 Outside the arena the two men continue arguing. Bullshit, how did you predict every single one of my attacks perfectly? Because I didn't, I used counters. Kenpachi explains patiently. You just couldn't see the blocking strike motion. Counter, what kind of bullshit is that? It's called strategy, kid, and you're just too slow. Not very powerful but not bad either, he says. Dot. 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 As they walk, Blaze gets in the last word. By the way, I'm not a kid. I look 25-ish but really I'm centuries old. The man looks at Blaze. Shouldn't you know about combat and all that by now then? Blaze grins. You got me on that one. Sucks, but every time I die and get reborn into a universe or switch through certain portals, I lose most of my memory and some of my power, he says. Suddenly a portal opens and Blaze waves goodbye before jumping in. Dot. Dot. On the other side Kenpachi can see a castle carved into a mountain, villages visible on its lower slopes. Magic spheres barely visible helping inhabitants higher up to be comfortable. He also sees creatures and ethereal beings of various kinds walking to and from the peaceful kingdom of redemption. As he turns to leave, he wonders if perhaps his own world may someday become something similar, scoffing at the idea. The portal closes and Zaraki leaves feeling somewhat satisfied, smiling slightly despite not facing a worthy opponent.